Hello and welcome to Prime of the Night. I'm your host, Joe Stoneworks, and tonight I'm here with the one, the only, John Stoneworks. How are you doing?
Hello.
How are you doing today, John?
I'm doing pretty good. You?
I'm doing fucking fantastic. I'm so thrilled to have you here, and let's just get right into this. So, tell me a little bit about this town that we're in, Roseville. Sorry.
Rosathil, you're good. So Rosathil in particular was formed, frankly, out of a struggle, right?
Okay.
Originally, of course, I had to evacuate, because of the whole Chimeran Civil War. We originally were there.
Oh
I
shit.
had to evacuate my people out of there. Of
Okay, I
course,
gotcha.
this
I
was a
gotcha.
very, very, very long trip across originally the ice caps. And then eventually, all of our boats had broken when we had reached pretty much the tip of Helin.
Hmm.
In which case, at that point, I split the sea to arrive here. So there has been quite a few
Wow.
things that we have gone
Okay.
through to
Yeah. So
get to this
I've
point.
heard
But
that
frankly,
you're a bit of an influential figure. The Stoneworks Jesus is what some people would call you. Would you like to explain some of that?
well, I think a lot of people get that from the miracles that I do.
Okay.
I will say it's empowered to me by the Father. However, on the nature of these miracles, it's mainly to, of course, help people. It's to, of course, empower people on their own sort of endeavors. It's mainly, it's mainly for good reasons. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Like
know. I get
always
that.
for good reasons. Um,
Wow. Um. Well, what would you say? Like, what are some of your miracles? Like, what are some of them?
well, I mean, for example, how we got here. When I had reached Helin, I found it necessary because all of our boats had broken and had been, kind of fucking destroyed.
Right.
To part two seas to walk across to get to here.
Wow. That's. I don't even know what to say. You have me speechless. Like I literally don't even know what to say. Um, John Stoneworks, jeez, Stoneworks, Jesus. um, Tell me a little bit about your time in Dawn Fear. I know that you've recently joined, and you're here now, and you've risen very far up that ladder. Like, what do you think of it so far?
So, Dawn Fear as a nation, right? I had originally come to Deloaded, with kind of a struggle. I didn't really know where to go. Watching my entire nation, previous nation implode on itself.
Okay.
And Deloaded in particular was very, very open to this whole idea. What we have here is an extraordinary sort of, key portions of cities, right? Which is going to be one city of Roseville.
Okay.
Um, how it's essentially going to work, and I'll go a little bit onto it. But actually, before I go a little bit off, Dawn Fear as a nation has been very, very helpful in our growth, and we've done everything that we can to try and repay them. I, in
Yeah.
particular, have recruited a lot of people over the city, and thereby recruited a lot of people in Dawn Fear. And it's been very, very, it's been very nice. I'm very happy with the situation I'm in now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. I think being loyal to one's nation and repaying them is that's a good thing. I mean, you can't be any better than that. A lot of people are so motivated by greed and ambition that they forget
I
about the people who helped them.
They forget about the people that brought them up, and
Yeah.
frankly, I don't. I think I will be forever, eternally repaying Deloaded on the stuff that he has done.
Yeah.
The stuff that he has kind of gone through to get me here. Because there was
Right.
a lot of distress coming from Chimera itself, of course, going, you're blacklisted from the nation. You can't go
Right.
back to your holy city. Which, by the way, now that I think it's the Erushna Menegrate has taken over. I don't know if that's lifted or not. I would assume so.
Okay.
But the previous leadership was very angry because they claimed I was a stabilizing figure.
Interesting.
But going on to any other questions that you have.
Yeah. So one last final question here. So your religion, right? What are some of your plans going forward? Like, what do you want to do on Abexless?
So I recently did have my wedding.
Okay.
What I will say
Congratulations.
is there, and thank you. I actually have my wedding ring in my hand to
Oh wow.
to my left.
All right.
But since that wedding, I sort of announced a global campaign. I'm likely to be seeing maybe the nations of Zalatra, Ishkanor, likely HOE, of course, because that was a nation that my wife comes from.
Okay. Okay.
But hearing about the current situation in the Nightshade diarchy, it has inclined me more to perhaps look into coming over there to see if I can cool down this nightshade fever.
Yeah, no, they are in dire need of some help. I've heard like they're one of their emperors, Stickman Prime. He passed away recently, and I think they're
Dead.
hosting
I
a
got the
funeral
news.
for him soon. Yeah, so they need a lot of help, and I'm sure they would really appreciate your help, John.
And of course, I understand that fully. I mean, if I was in that situation, of course, I would be, kind of as, what's a good word? I would be as open.
Yeah.
But I think it's definitely going to be one of the first nations that I go to, just because of that.
Okay. Well, hey, anyone out there who's watching from the Nightshade Diarchy, hey, good news. John's heading your way, maybe. So.
Yeah. In particular, though, what I will say about the Nightshade Diarchy is there's one person in there that I know and who will actually call out in particular for very good reasons. Panzer. Panzer has been a big help with, of course, getting people away from a certain nation called Rodakia. I don't really know if they're very active anymore, but
okay.
They were struggling a lot. Of course, I had known these people while they were still in there. I had hopped in their visas a lot. I won't go too much into the actual internal politics of it, but they weren't very happy with the nation. It was a very, very hard falling out for them. And looking into it, honestly, the stuff that Panzer and many of these other Rodakians, by the way, have gone off and made their own nation, have gone through is hell. I never, there's certain scenarios on Stoneworks or that I hear about where it's like, damn, imagining going through that must really fucking suck.
Yeah.
And of course, there's a lot of favors that I feel that I have to repay, and constantly inclines me to, of course, be good, not only just off of my, my desire to be good in general, but also just out of the desire to be benevolent as well, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
For these reasons.
No, I get that. Well, from what you've told me, you sound like an actual good person, and that's hard to say because a lot of people on Abexless, like I said, they're greedy. And they're just motivation by power. Like all they want to do is just climb to the top, and it doesn't matter who they betray at the end of the day. But
I've been hearing a lot of that, especially so in Dawn, right? What I will say is quelling people's ambitions is not something that I want to do. What I generally do is try and satisfy people's ambitions. Person to my left, right? The funny man's. I had personally recruited him and met him in VC, right?
Okay.
He had told me these fucking grand plans in the city, and he had told me that, of course, it probably wouldn't be possible because of, his sort of order that he's in, if you can't tell by his Narts armor.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
And, all power to you, by the way, brother. I've seen plans. It's fucking beautiful. But what I will say is I feel the need to kind of set out a path for everybody that I recruit, adamantly. I feel that everybody who's kind of come to me and everybody that I've recruited is quite extraordinary, and I want to make sure that these ambitions are met. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get you 100%.
Act the way I do. Now, of course, I've seen what happens when ambitions are not met. In fact, this is quite frankly what happens to a lot of nations. For example, Rodakia in particular, a lot of things were held back by the leader, in which case, of course, where they had that huge falling out.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Ambition is very, very important to the server. Of course, if I'm just going to talk a little...
No, go for it.
Whatever. Right? Ambition is very important to the server. It's what's powering the server as it stands. We're seeing, what I'd say is the beginning of a new era of people coming in.
Yeah.
Of course, again, person to my left, Abexilus, right? They are mainly maining Abexilus now, and quite frankly, we've seen, a very good friend that I've had. I talked to him pretty regularly. A lot of people don't like them. In particular, Seeker, one of the leaders of Syria.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
And it's a shame because I'd love to have him around. But that does bring up another point of he's been here for 4 years. Frankly,
wow.
Yeah, 4 years, fucking crazy number. Me personally, I joined in May, I believe. Actually, no, I think June. I think I joined in June.
Okay, June of what? This year?
June of this year, yes.
Wow. Okay, very new.
Yeah, very new. And actually, if I go back to that, before I actually played Stoneworks, I was recruited to build a city named Chios. Before I actually became, the whole Messiah figure, I'll be the first to admit, I really was just adamant on building. I wanted to become known purely by building. I mean, my buildings are, of course, half of these are. So some of these buildings are mine. I'm trying to adjust the style, but I
Yeah, no,
want to be
these
known
are very
as.
beautiful builds. Like
Thank
they
you.
are
Thank you.
already unique by themselves. Like I haven't seen buildings like
Ignoring
these
the
like ever.
massive fucking bedrock tree behind me.
That is an interesting tree. I
Trust,
love it.
trust. I got the seeds from Home Depot. They were
I love it.
um, but as for kind of how I got here, there's somebody behind me, isn't there? Anyway, as for how I got here, um, I remember one day I was literally just out going to get some stone for a city named Blackthorn. They were out to I think it was some sort of structure. I think they're just trying to expand over to a new like sort of area. They're trying to get building blocks to their walls, whatever, right?
Right, right, right.
Uh, and from there, a bee had flown up to me and had commanded me to free a god from a tree, and that set off a
Huh.
chain of events to pretty much bring me to where I am now. And it's
Oh, that's
very,
interesting.
it's interesting how stuff like that can, of course, bring people to these points.
No, yeah, I
Small things like
completely
that in
agree with
particular.
you. Yeah. I'm gonna tell you a
Um,
little story here that goes back to the beginning of Eldham. There was this player named Stickman Prime. Well, we mentioned him earlier. You know, he's dead, but God bless his soul. When he first joined the server, he settled upon this nation called Grand Ferencia, and at the time they bordered Drukgyal and the Confederation of. Well, I don't know how to say the name, but it's the Cog is what they called it back in the day.
oh,
And
Democratic Nation.
yep, you got it. And there were these horses that were native to the land of Grand Ferencia, and Stickman he slowly became kind of obsessed with horses, and his the whole thing was killing the horses. And there was a civil war that happened. Well, I guess not really a civil war, but like Stickman created a town in Grand Ferencia, and then he succeeded from them and went to Drukgyal. And then Grand Ferencia was not having that, so they sent their mercs to go raid his town, and they left one of their horses there, I guess just to see what was going to happen. And Stickman killed this horse, and because of this horse, a huge war broke out. So many nations got involved between Drukgyal and Grand Ferencia, and he made a name for himself, and he got into politics, and he got renowned, and people started calling him the Horse Slayer. So I totally get what you mean. Like something as little as a bee or a horse kind of drives someone's purpose, so far out that they become, world renowned. So I get that.
There are many burdens and events that drive people's purpose, and I think that frankly, it's what makes this place unique. And it's
Yeah.
why I've stuck around as much as I have. Of course, with a lot of stuff happening, of course, between the downtime and watching my home nation originally blow itself apart was very, very. It was very. I lost a lot of ambition at the time, which I've regained now. I'm back. I've
It's good.
been
It's good that you're
back
back.
on at
Yeah.
full pace. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it definitely made me think a little bit. Before I'd actually come on Stoneworks, I'm not fucking joking. I've been doing geopol shit since I was 9 years old. I'm, I'm not fucking
Very
exaggerating on
awesome.
that. I mean, but this is of course small scale thing. So Stoneworks was kind of a culture shock for me.
Yeah.
Of course, the first thing I did before I joined those, because of course I got kind of coerced to go in. I'll be the first to admit. Um, was to name myself John Stoneworks. I wanted to give myself a reason to play Stoneworks for at least a month to really experience it. Because
That's
we're
fair.
actually, for like I think since I was maybe 13 or 12, my other British friend and I looked at the server and we're kind of like, it's way too intense. Like it's way too established. We can't take ourselves on. But of course, with
Yeah.
Apex coming out, it's like
You have a
there's a lot of
chance.
new opportunity for people. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, pretty much.
Wow. Well, John, thank you for bringing me here. It was extremely awesome to get to meet you. I can't say I've ever met anyone like you before. I hope to see you do some really awesome, good things out in Abexilus, because the world needs you. And
Thank you.
yeah,
Trust me, I know.
yeah,
So, of course, looking over at before we go, I'm seeing many conflicts break out right now. It's looking back at it from here, it's very, very, it's sad to see. It's very cliche to go, oh, I wish people could get along, but
yeah,
it's a realistic stance. I mean, looking especially at the Crusader and Leyden conflict, they in particular are in a very sticky situation.
they are.
Um,
Yeah,
Yeah, I've heard.
Well, actually, so we just talked with them, the Crusader people, Luca. We just did a
Oh,
podcast
good.
with him just recently. He was talking about how the guy who rebelled, they just compromised with him, and they're in the process of getting all of their towns back. So the amount of backing they have is
Really?
enormous. So yeah, they're coming out on top.
Well, Don Fear is backing them as well.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
But
that's that. I don't know what to say. They're doing good. It's good that other nations are helping stuff like that, because rebellions are they're annoying if they don't have a good reason, and that guy
they
had
don't
no
have a good
reason to
reason
rebel.
either.
Yeah. So
well, I will say, Joe, I understand you're kind of short on time. I would love to meet with you for a second episode, perchance. There's
hey, for
oh
sure,
my God,
for
there's
sure.
so much stuff.
I would love to have you back on. Yeah, I'd love to do it. Hopefully whenever Roseville is done, I'd hopefully love to do it there sometime. I understand you have big plans for that town.
We are expanding rapidly. Of course, before we go.
Yep.
I'm going to plug a little bit. We of course have like free. We offer free housing. I mean, generally, I recruit by VC. I don't ever recruit in chat. I want to.
Okay.
It's how I got him, in particular. It's how I meet extraordinary fucking people, right? I will say, just crazy people with like high fucking charisma levels. Not to glaze, but you get what I'm saying.
I do. Yeah.
It's So if you ever see me in VC and you're interested, I guess, then of course, reach out.
Yeah, for sure. There you go. You heard it from John Stoneworks himself.
I mean, holy shit, we've been here for 3 weeks, and we're halfway to building up a massive cathedral. We've already gotten a fairly big city complex going.
Yeah, the progress you guys have done is enormous. Like it's a lot better than most nations.
Did I show you the trench?
You have not. But let's save it for the next episode. All right.
In fact, after the episode is done, Joe, I'm gonna probably take you out and let's see how far down you can get in the trench.
All right. Well,
big ass fucking water pit.
Wish me luck, everyone. All right, guys. Well,
taking Joe to the trench now.
I've been your host, Joe Stoneworks, and I'll see you guys soon.